888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. There was a strike against Syria. We'll be talking about that. The former First Lady, Barbara Bush, is in declining health and is now said to be only receiving, quote-unquote, comfort care, close quote. Remember R. Lee Army, the man who became famous as a drill instructor in the movie Full Metal Jacket? He has died. We'll be talking about that later on. The big news, of course, is the interview that James Comey gave with George Clintonopoulos. And I've got several clips. We're going to go through it. But first, let me just say a word about the entire circus. And by circus, I'm talking about the display of James Comey being interviewed by George Clintonopoulos and telling Clintonopoulos that he believes that Donald Trump is, quote, morally unfit to be president, close quote. Now, Comey is saying this to George Clintonopoulos, whose boss, Bill Clinton, was, as you well know, plausibly accused of rape, not once, not twice, but 3 times, according to Christopher Hitchens, a well-respected lefty who wrote a book called No One Left to Lie To, in which he made that allegation. Stephanopoulos, whose boss was accused credibly of rape, was accused credibly of sexual assault. And George Clintonopoulos, according to at least 2 books, No One Left to Lie To, the one I just now mentioned, and Hell to Pay by Barbara Olson, who died on 9/11. They both said that Clintonopoulos and Hillary were together, putting together what ultimately became known as the nuts or slut strategy to malign the women who made allegations against Bill Clinton. So here is Comey telling this to George Clintonopoulos, who is now morphed into the, quote, chief news anchor, close quote, of ABC News. Beam me up, Scotty. I remember watching Clintonopoulos going on television and accusing Jennifer Flowers of lying. Jennifer Flowers was the woman who had a long-time affair with the president, with Bill Clinton. It came out during the campaign. He denied it. Later on, he admitted that they did, in fact, have an affair. Clintonopoulos went on television and said the tape that she had in which he was saying, you just tell people we didn't talk about it. Just lie. Clintonopoulos was saying that that tape was a fake. So here he is, knee-deep in maligning these women who made allegations against Bill Clinton, sitting there listening to Comey accuse Trump of being morally unfit. Are you kidding me? Did Clintonopoulos, before he began his interview, give us a disclosure? By the way, I was once a top aide, campaign aide to Bill Clinton. Without me, without James Carville, he never would have gotten elected. After becoming elected, I became a top policy advisor. But now I'm a down-the-middle objective journalist. I was never involved in the nuts or slut strategy. Oh, no. Are you kidding me? And for him to accuse Donald Trump of being morally unfit to hold office? And by the way, he said he wasn't even sure if he did anything wrong. When asked, he's not even sure. But he thinks he's morally unfit to hold office. This to George Clintonopoulos, whose boss was getting pleasured in the Oval Office by an intern. But Donald Trump is morally unfit to hold office. I mean, it's just maddening.
Is Donald Trump unfit to be president?
Yes. He strikes me as a person of above average intelligence who's tracking conversations and knows what's going on. I don't think he's medically unfit to be president. I think he's morally unfit to be president.
JFK. According to The Dark Side of Camelot, Seymour Hersh, former New York Times reporter, so therefore he must be credible, said that JFK had venereal disease for 30 years because of his affairs with starlets and hookers. Said that he had swimming pool parties in the White House when Jackie was away when he was president. Shared relationships with a mobster's girlfriend. Shall I continue?
What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
This is just maddening. Maddening. And this guy, James Comey, was never asked, at least not in the hour excerpt that we saw, it was a 5-hour interview, never asked, how is it that you could say, as you did, that Hillary did this and did this and did this and then this, but then at the end you said, but she lacked intent, so therefore she did not violate the Espionage Act. The provision in question, Mr. Comey, does not require intent. Why did you add intent? Never asked. But I wouldn't expect him to ask that kind of question, given his obvious bias. He never should have gotten the job as chief news anchor. It's insulting. Jake Tapper used to be the press secretary for a Democrat. During the campaign, when she won, became her press secretary. He's a Democrat. Chuck Todd also worked for a Democrat, congressional Democrat. There he is, Meet the Press, news anchor. There he is, Jake Tapper, CNN, the lead, news anchor. There is George Stephanopoulos, former top advisor to Bill Clinton, involved in orchestrating the campaign to malign the women who made allegations against Bill Clinton. Chief news anchor, ABC News. It is a joke. It's a joke. But there he is. My goodness. Quote, George Stephanopoulos, how strange is it to sit here and compare the president to a mob boss? Close quote. How strange is it to sit here with a former campaign aide to Bill Clinton who was involved in orchestrating the nuts or sluts strategy, sit there and feign indignation over Trump's treatment of women. How strange is that? Remember James Carville? Drag $100 through a trailer park, ain't no telling what you're going to come up with. Right there with George Clintonopoulos. They were a tag team. At least Clintonopoulos should have disclosed this to viewers under a certain age who have no idea. These are the same viewers who have no idea about Chappaquiddick. They have no idea about Clintonopoulos' involvement in getting Bill Clinton elected and defending Bill Clinton against accusations that he had cheated on his wife, that he'd gone on television, Stephanopoulos, and accused Jennifer Flowers, who later on was vindicated, of being a liar. And there he is sitting there with James Comey. It is a joke. Two things about Comey's book that will disappoint Trump haters. First is he said he has no idea whether or not Bill Clinton even did anything wrong. I'm really not quite sure. That's not what you wanted to hear. And he admitted that politics influenced his decision to reopen the Hillary investigation near the waning days of the campaign because he assumed she was going to win. And given the fact that she was going to win, I wanted her victory to not be tainted. I didn't want people to think her victory was illegitimate. That's why I did it. In other words, politics influenced his decision. Those are admissions that Comey made. Probably didn't want to hear that, did you? I'm Larry Elder.
Is Donald Trump unfit to be president?
Yes.
Larry Elder. All true. All.
Listening to the analysis of the interview that Stephanopoulos did with James Comey. By the way, the interview was 5 hours long. We only saw 1 hour. But the entire 5-hour transcript is apparently available. I've not read the whole thing yet. And watching CNN and MSNBC hee-haw, the refrain over and over and over again was that President Trump is a liar. He's a liar, he's a liar, he's a liar. And again, as you heard, James Comey said he was morally unfit to hold office.
Is Donald Trump unfit to be president?
Yes. He strikes me as a person of above average intelligence who's tracking conversations and knows what's going on. I don't think he's medically unfit to be president. I think he's morally unfit to be president.
And of course, he's a liar.
Days later, a phone call.
So I'm at my desk eating my lunch and working, and my assistant says there's a call coming from the White House. It's the president asking me if I want to come over for dinner that night. I said, sure, sir. And he
Why
said,
not say no?
well, it's the president of the United States calling to ask me to a dinner, and I was assuming it was a group dinner.
Since the days of J. Edgar Hoover, presidents rarely, if ever, dine alone with FBI directors. But when Comey arrives, he is alone.
Standing at the entrance to the green room, I saw it. A table unmistakably set for two.
What did you think was going on?
Something that made me uncomfortable, and so I just waited. There's no saying no at this point.
How long did it take to get down to business?
I think it was probably during the salad, before the shrimp scampi. He redirected the conversation and he said, a lot of people would want to be FBI director, and given all you've gone through, I would understand if you want to walk away, but it would look like you'd done something wrong if you did that, but I figured I should meet with you and see what you want to do.
With most of his 10-year term remaining, and having previously assured the president he wanted to stay on, Comey was surprised by the question.
What was the rest of the table talk like?
It was him talking almost the entire time. So it would be monologue in this direction, monologue in that direction, monologue in a different direction, on and on and on and on and on. I never assaulted these women. I never made fun of a reporter.
I don't remember.
Constant series of assertions about the inauguration crowd.
This crowd was massive. Look how far back it goes.
His inauguration crowd was bigger than that at Barack Obama's first inauguration. That's just not true. That's not a perspective. That's not a view. That's just a lie. And yet he would say it, and everyone agrees, everyone says, everyone believes.
So you're listening. Are you thinking President Trump's a liar?
Yes. Yeah.
Amid the torrent of talk, Comey says it becomes clear that what's really...
Okay. Now, those of you who don't want to hear this, you can turn your radio down. We have not elected saints as presidents, to my knowledge. This week, I'm going to interview Ron Kessler, who's written a book about Trump's victory. Kessler's the one who wrote a book about LBJ and said that LBJ said on Air Force One, I believe he was talking to a couple of other governors, something to the effect of, after the Civil Rights Bill gets passed, we'll have these N-words voting for Democrats for the next 200 years, end of quote. Has LBJ been maligned by the left as a racist and a liar? No. They just don't talk about that part of him. What were Barack Obama's two biggest decisions? One domestic, one foreign policy. Domestic, obviously, is Obamacare. Foreign policy was pulling all the troops out of Iraq. In the case of Obamacare, it was pushed based upon two falsehoods that he constantly told. One of them was that his mother, as she lay dying from cancer, was having to battle with her insurance carriers to pay her hospital and medical bills. Turns out, completely not true. It's a story he told over and over and over again. I know some campaign aides for him who, when I told that this story was not true, I was told it was a common story told over and over again during the campaign. Not true. Janie Scott, a former New York Times reporter, so therefore she must be credible, wrote a flattering profile of Obama's mom and spent about a page and a half dedicated to this incident, and obviously did not realize the import of what she was writing, because she said that the bills were promptly paid. The only quarrel was that Obama's mom had taken out a disability policy after she had been diagnosed, which is contrary to the rules. And that was challenged by the insurance company, and the insurance company won. Outside of that, her bills were promptly paid. It was a story that was told over and over again. The second story that drove Obamacare, without which Obamacare would not have passed, is if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. It was determined to be the lie of the year because after it was obvious by the regulations that that was not true, Obama said it 7 or 8 more times. Now, the other foreign policy deal, of course, was the Iran deal. The big foreign policy decision that he made was the Iran deal and pulling out of Iraq. When he pulled out of Iraq, what did he say? His hands were tied because he had to follow the timetable of George W. Bush. Not true. And the Iran deal, turns out that according to Ben Rhodes in a big article in the New York Times, he misled the nation and said that there was this battle between the moderate Ayatollahs and the hardliner Ayatollahs. If you want to give the moderates some strength, you got to pass this deal. And he laughed and then said, there's no such thing as a moderate Ayatollah. My goodness, what about those lies? Those had to do with policy, major shifts in policy, transformational decisions. I'm Larry Elder.
Larry Elder.